Hi, friends. Welcome to today's episode of the Grounding Journey podcast. I'm excited to dig into the conversation with my guest, Lisa McCourt. We're going to talk about joy, about gratitude, and of course, happiness, and how those intermingle and intertwine together, along with self love and authenticity. It's going to be a great conversation, and I'm really excited that you're here. I'm Chris Greer, host of the Grounding Journey podcast and creator of the My Happy Life monthly subscription box. At My Happy Life Box, we believe in the power of a woman's transformation. Our mission is to support you in rediscovering your true self through our monthly subscription boxes, which offer high quality products, exceptional customer service, and lasting growth, empowering you and nurturing you on your ongoing personal growth journey. Through the Grounding Journey podcast, we'll have real, honest, and meaningful conversations that leave you feeling more connected, inspired, and fully supported on your spiritual journey. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. So today's guest is Lisa McCourt. She writes books about joy and love that have together sold over 9 million copies and earned over 9,000 glowing Amazon reviews. She's host of the Do Joy podcast, and her newest book, Feel Joy, represents the culmination of the magic she's shared for over 2 decades through her online joy school. So we're going to talk with Lisa. We're going to get into all about her joy school and her journey to find more joy. Lisa, I'm so excited you're here. Thanks for being here with us. Now, as I do with everyone, I've read your formal introduction, but I would love to hear, who do your friends know you as? Who do you feel you are as a person? Let's get a little deeper.
That is so beautiful. I love that. The word that comes to mind is mama bear. I think that's probably the what my family for sure, and a little bit of extended family there would say. But with my joy schoolers, with my community, I have that sort of a mama bear vibe for sure. I think I always had it. I'm turning 60 this year, and I'm so looking forward to like the crone stage. And I have friends of
Mhm.
a similar age who are like, oh, don't use that word. My friend Ariel Ford says like queenager. I prefer queenager. But for me, there's something about age that just connotes wisdom and like increased ability to care for those that I'm shepherding. And I can't wait to be a crone. I remember even in my 20s talking to some of my friends in publishing at the time. I had what felt like a stressful job. I don't know if it actually was or not. I might have just put that on myself, as I would have been likely to do in my 20s, and saying like, I just can't wait to be an old woman, because
Mm.
the thought of being able to wear whatever crazy clothes you want and eat whatever you want and drink whatever you want and not have to worry all the time about, am I impressing my supervisors at my job? You're like, what is my career going to be? Who
Mhm.
am I going to marry? What is my life going to be? That felt like it weighed so heavy at earlier points in my life. So I think I was just sort of born old and couldn't wait to be old. And I was right. I wouldn't go back by 5 minutes. Every year just gets better and better. Every decade gets better and better.
I love that. I have a similar of I'm in my late 40s, so I'll be 48 next month. And I've been perimenopause, but I'm hitting it hard now. And I was talking to my naturopath and I said, I'm so excited to hit menopause. And she looked at me and laughed and went, "What? I've never heard somebody say that." And like you, it's that stepping into the next phase of life and embracing it because we can't stop it. So it's really embracing that with joy and excitement instead of dread. And so I love that, we did a podcast last fall where we discussed the phases of life. And it was with a lady named Leanna Silver, and she likes to use wise elder instead of crone. So when you were talking that, I was like, that's definitely the wise elder of the tribe. So I'm so happy that you're here to share your wisdom with my audience and listeners.
You're so sweet. Yeah. No, I'm excited to talk to you. I love talking about joy, my favorite conversation.
Yeah, well, and I think it's such a neat conversation to have because my focus is the word happy, your focus is the word joy, and it's bringing more of that into our lives. So I'm excited to discuss kind of the difference, the fact that it's all our inherent right, that it's all within us. But before we get into that, let's talk just a moment about your journey to finding joy. Because as you said, in your 20s, you had a stressful job. Maybe it wasn't as stressful, but what really was those stepping stones along the way that got you to where you are now?
Yeah. These words sound kind of trite because we hear them all the time, and we all think we have like the associations to them, but it's really been a journey of stepping into greater authenticity and self-love. But
Yes.
this is what keeps us from being joyful in our lives, right? We all are
Hmm.
come here as joy. We come here as 100% these beautiful, love-filled, pristine, energetic beings, and we start accumulating obstructions to recognizing ourselves as that. And the joy is there. We don't have to go out and create it or find it or manufacture it. The joy is always there. It's what we are. It's about dismissing the obstructions that are in the way of it.
Hmm.
For very, very, very many of us, those are beliefs of core unworthiness. We inherited those beliefs from probably potentially very well-meaning parents and families and communities, because our humanity is at a point where we're still very much fear driven, and there are a lot of beliefs about scarcity and competition and survival that don't really have objectively true application to our lives, but we
Hmm.
inherit those energies. And it makes parents always try to make their kids better so that they have that edge, so that they have a better life. But all the child hears is, I'm not okay the way I am. I'm not good enough the way I am. And these beliefs become what we go on to create our life and our reality from. That's one way it can go. There are two ways that the core wounding happens. The other is more neglect and lack of attunement, but it could go either way.
Yeah. That's so like everything you said, authenticity, self love, those are the things that I think midlife is where we really get to feel those and discover them. And there is also, to me, an element. Now, I have a 23-year-old son, and his fiance is 23. So I'm watching them go through their 20s. And there's good days and there's bad days, and there's good comments and bad comments about their jobs. And I want to fix it for them. I want to hire them to work for me. I want to give them the perfect environment. And then I remember that's part of the journey. Like, I believe you have to get kind of far away from it so that it becomes a conscious choice to restore, to rediscover you, to see yourself again as yourself. And that's, to me, that's part of the beauty of the journey. And I've been really far away from who I am. And, it was a hard journey to rediscover myself. And one, if I had to do it again, I would hands down do it again.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to save our kids from challenges. We want to save ourselves from challenges. But all of us, when we look back, we can see that our challenges were the points in our lives where we really grew and expanded and became
Yeah.
more who we are, and learned to drop those masks that we'd been wearing.
So, what happened in your world and your journey that brought you to discovering joy for your life?
Yeah, I think I came into the word joy a little bit later. I've been using that word for probably about 25 years in the work that I do. But it was really, it was a spiritual journey. I think as a very young person, I was having experiences that, when it's you think that everybody's having the same thing happen, right? Like, it's just, you don't understand that there's anything different about it. But I think from a pretty early age, there was like an aspect of myself that I could fall back into that just felt safe and felt
Mm,
love.
mhm.
And just, I couldn't go there at will. It wasn't like a flip a switch thing, but it visited me often enough that I knew what that felt like, to feel safe in my body, safe in my world. And just like there's just this huge presence of love where I just love everybody in the world.
Mm,
But I came to understand much later in my early adulthood when I started reading about, spirituality and reading spiritual authors. And I studied Buddhism extensively in college and comparative religion. And I came to recognize like, oh, that's my soul. This is when I'm
mm,
connecting to my soul.
yeah.
And everybody has a soul. Like there's nobody walking around without one, right? So
Right.
you look around and you see how miserable people are and how fearful and how reactive, and it just became more and more apparent that this ability to connect with the soul essence within us is the remedy for that, the counter to that. So
Mm,
I just started collecting tools from a really early age to go there more frequently, to be able to stay there in day-to-day life, to bring that soul aspect into regular existence. And nothing I teach originated with me. I'm not downloading mystical information. It's all like in thousands years old cultural application from Buddhism to Vedic, the Yoga Sutras. It's all out there, and a lot of contemporary spiritual teachers today are putting it into more mainstream application. And if I have a superpower, like a skill that I will gladly own, it's that I'm really good at synthesizing that. So I'm just a
mm.
continual learner. I'm always going out there. I'm definitely still a work in progress. I'm always like gathering the tools, bringing them to my joy scrollers, bringing them to my books. And that's what lights me up and keeps me passionate. It feels like, I can do my little part to be on this team, be on the team of people who are disseminating this information.
Well, and I love that you say that because I'm like you. I am not downloading, I am absorbing. I'm absorbing everything. My bookshelf, listening to other people podcasts, listening to classes, listening to audiobooks, and really picking those moments that spark my soul. So it's like a buffet of spirituality to me, of finding this and oh, that resonates for me. And well, that doesn't resonate with me, but part of it resonates to spark another thought for me. And I think that's the beauty of being aware on the journey in spirituality, is really learning, absorbing, and finding what resonates for you so that you can have your own beliefs and your own essence, because we're also individual and we all bring something different, a different gift to the world. And I think that's so important to really read everything you can and find what thought it sparks for you or what really resonates for you, as you said.
Yeah, I used to work with writers a lot. I did a lot of ghostwriting, so I had writing clients, and always that fear that we'd have to get through was like, oh, there's so much already written about this. There's so many teachers. What right do
Hmm.
I have to step into this role? But what I would try to explain in a part is that every one of us who's on this spiritual journey, somewhere along the way, there was some Facebook post or book on a shelf or something that we heard that resonated with us at a vibrational
Hmm.
level. There was somebody's voice talking about this that matched with ours and provided that bridge that
Yeah.
meant us, once we cross that first bridge, we go on to a huge, beautiful spiritual life. And the more connection points we have for that, the better, because this person who is sitting here saying, who am I to join this team? There are so many, like, no, you're going to bring another vibrational point of connection into the conversation that a lot of people might have missed the whole conversation if you hadn't offered your point of vibration for them to recognize and resonate with.
When I think part of it too is hearing the right thing at the right moment. Because I know there are books or there are things I've seen or heard 20 years ago in my 20s, in my 30s. And then I hear it and I'm like, oh, I got it now. That makes so much more sense. So it's definitely also that the vibration and the right moment, because you're in a different place than where you were before.
100%.
Well, let's talk. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Like, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, let's dive into joy. So you've kind of given us a little bit about finding it through being authentic, through self love. And one of the things, oh, as I mentioned in the beginning, I talk happy, you talk joy. Let's talk about the difference between joy and happiness and what having that in your daily life feels like, looks like, sees like.
Yeah. I mean, we're all entitled to our own interpretations and definitions of these words, but I'll share mine. This is what we embrace at Joy School, is that happiness is one of the absolutely beautiful, valid emotions that we're here to feel. We all want more happiness. There's nothing wrong with that. But happiness is not a state of being that we would really expect to be in 24/7. If we were, we wouldn't even recognize it as happiness, right? Our life would just be completely boring. So what joy is to me, on the other hand, is the ability to feel so comfortable in our skin, comfortable in our experience and what's unfolding in life before us, that there's a joy in every human emotion. There can be joy in our anger, there can be joy in grief, there can be joy in frustration. When we really become skilled at sort of the witness perspective is what helps us to get there. There's joy is a feeling that we can have 24/7, no matter what other perfectly natural human emotion we're experiencing in the time.
I totally agree with that about the difference between happy and joy. For me, the feelings that you're talking about with joy is where I find gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the parallel to me of being able to find gratitude in the bad moments, in the good moments, in all the moments, because that leads you to the happy moments because you're able to see. And I absolutely agree that happiness, if you felt it all the time, you wouldn't feel it. There has to be a metric so that you know it's a really high vibe time because you felt low vibes. And I try really hard to remind myself when I'm in one of those really low vibe moments, days, weeks, whatever, that it's to remind me to help me know that when I'm in a really high vibe, happy place, to have more gratitude and joy and appreciation for that moment because I've seen the other moments too and appreciated them for what they play in my life.
Yeah. No, that's a really well spoken. And we use a lot of vibration tools in Joy School. We use the David Hawkins scale where every emotion is, has a vibratory frequency. And we recognize that love is our most powerful tool that we can wield for our own healing, for the healing of others, for creation, for manifestation. And when we get so skilled at knowing how to love ourselves wherever we are, love ourselves in our grief, love ourselves in our frustration, when we can really bring love to it, it actually moves it on the scale. It doesn't have
Mhm.
to stay. You can be in grief and have it be a very high vibration frequency when you're recognizing that grief is just love flowing through you. And that's all that the grief means, is that you've opened your heart to love in this huge capacity. So yes, I like that you're using it as a comparative state. Like, let me be grateful for this low vibe state. And the more we can learn to love ourselves right there, it doesn't even have to be a low vibration.
Yeah, I appreciate that you brought up that other scale. I use Abram Hicks emotional
Mhm.
scale
I
and was
actually
having a
combine them
conversation.
once.
Okay, I haven't seen that one, so that's why I will have to look that up afterwards. Um, I was on the phone with a friend recently who was in anger and having some life stuff, and we were talking about it, and so we got the scale out, and we're okay. Where can you move to come up? And disappointment was higher than anger, so we got her to disappointment instead of anger, so that she was disappointed in the situation, and moving that scale. So I bring that one up too. So if our listeners don't know about the two scales, I'll put a link in the or I'll put the names of them in the show notes, but I would highly recommend because they're really fun to look at. And really, when you catch yourself in that really low vibration and you're aware you're trying to get higher, looking at that scale, she didn't need to go from anger to happiness because that was too high of a jump, but she could go up four and get to disappointment. And that way she let go of the anger. And it's been a fun tool that we've played with when we chat. And she's my kind of my soul sister, so we lay it all on the table about life and then try to help each other through it, so it's been a lot of fun.
She's lucky to have you to do that with her. Yeah, and one thing that I think really helps people to understand why they want to elevate on the scales is there's a vibration of truth. I can't remember if Abraham talks about this, but David Hawkins definitely says that the 200 vibration of courage is where truth starts. So when we're below that, whatever we're looking at out there, we're not even seeing correctly. We're not even seeing objectively.
Mhm.
It's there's such blinders on when we're down in the lower frequencies, and once we can get up to at least that level of truth, we can see clearly, we can see what the options are, what the opportunities are, and we can't see them when we're below there.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things I want to go back to that you talked about for a moment, because I just released an episode recently about self love and really kind of redefining what that looks like. Let's talk about self love because you say self love and love is how you can really find those feelings and sensations. Let's talk about how you can connect with love and self love to connect deeper with your joy and your gratitude.
Yeah. So I think it was Thoreau that said, growing the soul is a matter of subtraction, not addition. And it's
Mm.
recognition that we are love. Love is right there. Love is all around us all the time. Sounds like a sappy pop song. Love is within us. Love is what we are. So why am I not experiencing myself as love right now? Is the kind of mucky work that a lot of people resist doing, because we all have had times in our lives when something has happened that we haven't really had the bandwidth to process. Usually it's when we're very young in our formative years, and we have this protective instinct that if this is too hard, too scary, too uncomfortable for me to look at, I'm going to shove it down and I'm going to repress it.
Mhm.
And these pockets of energy are stored within all of us. It's even like known physiologically now. I'm not going to try to explain the science behind it because there are people who do it far better than myself, but it's like detectable, like in our tissues we store
Mhm.
away these traumas, big T traumas, little T traumas, and the energy that naturally wants to flow up through us at all times, because this is what it means to be here in this human suit, is that there's this like beautiful chi, life force energy flowing up through us all the time, gets bumped up, it gets clogged up by all these stored
Mhm.
frequencies, right? So when it comes to experiencing the love that we are, and the love of all people and oneness and the love of ourselves, it's a matter of kind of going in, finding where these blockages are and releasing them.
Yeah.
And we can do that by looking at our life, right? Anything in our life that's bumping up against us, that's causing reactive feelings in us, that feels uncomfortable, is just showing us where it's the flavor of energy that we've stored in there. And we become more and more practiced at allowing and going in and feeling. We call them our feel to heal exercises in Joy School. And it's the recognition of how we repress and deny, and doing the opposite, loving those feelings into release so that we stop being triggered by that stuff out there that matches the frequency of it.
Yeah, when you're using these descriptions, it's funny how it's so parallel. And this is, I think, where in the beginning, where we talked about spirituality is picking kind of what resonates for you. And there's so many schools of thought out there that they really do come from the same place. As I'm listening to you talk, to me, that's the chakras and using yoga to really clear out the chakras because it's moving that energy through. And as I say, you don't get into some of the deeper yoga poses the first time. It's kind of like talk therapy. You've got to work through those emotions. You've got to be conscious. You don't always have to know, okay, I'm moving this moment, this memory out of my body, but by continuing to show up for yourself and meditate or yoga or clear your chakras, you're moving that energy and releasing it, whatever that tea is for you. So it's fun to have this conversation because we come at it from different roads, but our roads are running beside each other, and there's a lot of the finding what resonates for you. And so that I really enjoy this conversation that we can give the listeners different words to describe the same thing and different tools to describe the same action and let them really decide what works for them.
So, right, it's all the same pool of wisdom. And I love comparing it to yoga too, because even people who haven't studied the spiritual aspects of yoga, but just if you've ever been in a yoga class, what do you do if you're not quite in the pose? You relax into the pose. You don't force,
Hmm.
you don't, so, and it's the same thing with really releasing these frequencies. It's a matter of relaxing our physicality so that our nervous system gets the signal to relax. And that's what allows things to flow through and release.
When our nervous system is such a pivotal point in it. And we forget about that because when you're talking spirituality, you're thinking energetic bodies, subtle bodies, meditation. But we forget that so much of that physiology is ruled and regulated by our nervous system. And when we're in fight or flight, it doesn't matter how much you do until you can bring yourself out of fight or flight. It's going to cause that energy to stay stuck and not move or flow.
Absolutely. We can do a lot with because we feel more in control of our physical body, right? We
Hmm.
can
Right.
have a little list of instructions. Okay, let me unfurrow my brow. Let me check my jaw. Let me see if my shoulders are down. Am I breathing into my nice soft belly? And we can make a checklist that affects our physicality, and then that sends the signals to what's inside, to the nervous system.
Yeah, and it's so important to remember that there are organs and parts of our body that are so influential on our spirituality and on our ability to
Baby's
connect to our
ear.
soul. That's why it's body, mind, and soul, body, mind, and spirit, whatever word you want to use. Those three are important to each other, not just we're not one or the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I love that we can really talk about the joy and really feeling the gratitude, the experience for every moment, and to find those higher vibrations. And I know you've mentioned your Joy School, so tell us a little bit about Joy School.
Joy School has been an ongoing community experience. I've been doing some variety of Joy School for about 20 years. It used to just be one-off courses that would last 6 weeks or 8 weeks or weekend retreats. And now it is an ongoing membership community, but I still do offer online retreats and live retreats for, a crash course, like a really um, condensed joy training through Joy School. But mostly it's just people who recognize that there's a disconnect between how most of us are going through life and how we're meant to, and are willing to sort of look at themselves, look at their habits, because really all this is breaking habits. We've been conditioned
Mm,
to have certain thought patterns that have worn really well worn grooves, and they create the tunnel vision, and it's hard to see beyond them. So coming in with that recognition that it's going to require some application to life, right? We learn the things, we hear about the practices, and then we have to go apply them in our actual lives, and then we wear new grooves. And what I call the joy set point, that level of happiness and joy that all of us sort of get programmed into us really early on. It's basically whatever amount of joy and happiness we feel we deserve based on our earliest
mhm,
messaging. Usually it's absorbed rather from caregivers, from school, maybe from a religion that you're a part of. That messaging creates our reality until we get in there and bring what's unconscious up into the conscious awareness so that we can sort of look at it differently, see how to elevate that joy set point. So we're still going to have good days and bad days, times when our joy goes up or down, but the whole thing gets so elevated that what used to be our good day is now what our bad days look like, because we've just brought the whole bar up.
I love that. I love thinking about bringing the bar up because that to me is where we stop settling and we actually become an active participant, excuse me, in our life instead of just moving numbly through the days. And that's what I really want to bring into people's life is realizing that being awake, being conscious in your choices doesn't mean that you don't have bad days or good days, but it means that you get to choose what kind of day. I remember when Kevin was little, and I was a single mom and I had to get him out the door and get him to school and blah, blah, blah. More than days than I would like to admit, he would be a 12-year-old little boy, and I was in a good mood and it's your fault that I've in a bad mood now, blah, 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 which we all do as parents because we're learning as our kids are learning. And now having that awareness that it's my choice how I buy into that vibration, how I buy into the experience. And that may be something I would do over is not tell him that, so not so often, but, not do that as a parent. Um, because it does when we become awake and aware and conscious in our days, we're more able to choose to move out of that space instead of stay stuck there, whether it's turning on loud music and dancing around the room to raise your vibration or smudging or hitting the meditation for 15 minutes. My husband's been struggling recently with some work he's been doing. And so after lunch, I'll say, well, let's go listen to an Abraham for 15 minutes. And when he would never do that before, now he's like, oh, that's a great idea. And the last half of the day is so much better just from taking that 15 minutes to realign and reactivate the vibration that you're seeking instead of waiting to just go to bed and start over.
I love that. Absolutely. We all have to know what our tools are. We all have to have that toolbox because sometimes one tool is going to fit, sometimes a different tool is going to fit. But yeah, just that you remind him and the two of you take that time. Sometimes it doesn't take a whole lot, right? It doesn't take that
Mhm.
much to just reset.
Yeah. And then some days I just need to go to bed for 8 hours to
Yeah,
really reset. So
that's
I
fair.
offer that too, is just in saying, give yourself grace that we don't all get it right every time. It's a work in progress, just like we are works in progress. And I love you use the word human suit. So we're all works in progress in our human suits.
Yep. That's what we came here to do.
Yes. And we just have to remember that. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being here today and part of the conversation. I know that our audience is going to want to find you. So, where do you hang out? What's your website, social media? Where can people find out more about you?
Thank you. So my website is just my name, Lisa McCourt with 2Cs.com. And my podcast is there. My Joy School's there. I have an online retreat coming up in a few months, so you can find out about there. And my social, I'm on all the socials, but I really only pay attention to my personal Facebook, which is Lisa McCourt Author. So come join me at Lisa McCourt Author. I sprinkle joy there every day. We have interesting conversations in the comments, and I'd love to connect with you.
That's fantastic. Well, I will put all those links in our show notes and on the blog so everybody can find you. So if you're driving or you're out walking, don't worry. Just remember to check our show notes and you'll be able to find Lisa. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for the conversation. I appreciate your time. And I know that everybody's going to really benefit from this. So thank you for being here.
I loved it, Chris. Thank you for having the conversation with me. Have a beautiful day.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here for the conversation. I hope that you enjoyed listening to Lisa and I discuss joy, happiness, gratitude, love, and authenticity. And I hope it's inspired you to check out the My Happy Life box to unlock a new sense of vitality and joy every month with our curated mindfulness and meditation items designed to enrich your journey of renewal. myhappylifebox.com.